So the big piece about I'm gonna follow along with the textbook for the moment. Um, do I have something for? Need to go look at the folder. So there's a zip file that you'll when you're with your assignment. There's a zip file that this folder right here you're going to get. And I'm gonna look. Where are we? Chapter 11. Yeah, there's nothing here. Okay. So I'm gonna just grab this image for right now. So basically there is this icon. Basically we look at web pages. I'll just bring up one login for right now. You can see that there's this one icon up here. That's an icon. And that is basically set. Let's go into the head. So again, we've got a metadata, basically character set UTF-8. This is basically the standard web. One of the things that we can do here is we can add a link. And REL is, so all of these links, it's going to be something, what is it? And this is basically going to be icon. And then you'll see href. So basically when we refer something, it's the href value that we're going to set. So href is going to be equal to images. I just put you in there. There we go. Why are you not looking? So I'm gonna go grab the. I just literally put this in here. So I'm gonna user rename to grab this all. Cut and paste, and then I'm gonna drop that in right here. I need the end. There we go. And so now we bring this out. Is it going to show the icon? No, let me actually open the page. So we go back. We can actually go. Should have put. My apologies. All right, I'm going to move on. All right, we've looked at. Let me see. I'm just going to take this out for right now. I'm going to jump back into the body. All right. In terms of structuring, in terms of there are, when you're working in HTML, there are two ways you need to think about elements: block elements and things that are inline. And the ones that are block elements are H1. So I'm just going to do header 1. There is 3 header tags. And then there is a So these are the 3. So these are basically, you've got the header 1, header 2, header 3, paragraph. So these are basic, and these are things that you'll see these in like Microsoft Office, Google Docs. These are standard tags. There are 2 types of elements. I'm just going to use a paragraph tag here. There are 2 types of elements that are going to be inline. So this is text. And one you've seen already is the division tag. So basically, the division is one of the elements in here. Why is it yelling about? What are you yelling about it now? Oh, I think the division. Okay, I think division is it's yelling because basically the division tag. Yeah, it doesn't like so basically the division tag is supposed to be is what the code here is saying is that the division tag is in general is used as for bigger areas. So I should have done, let me flip this around. There is the element tag, and it's EM. So that's not what I want. That's emphasis. There we go. Sorry, yeah. We'll worry about that later. But basically, I've basically made an element right here. We can worry about this later on. But the idea here is that we have elements and we have pieces which are in line. And that's one of the big things. Like, again, you can see all the text right here. I can put in, many spaces as I want right here. It's not going to matter. And that's because basically all of this white space, HTML doesn't care about it. It basically sees, oh, here's text, and here's a bunch of white space, and here is more white space. While this is is much readable, I mean, I can do something like this. And HTML doesn't care. It read it perfectly fine. So this is again an example of when you see some pages that are like, they're jammed up like this. That's because basically those white spaces actually adds to their characters. So it actually adds to the document. And so you'll see that all stripped out because HTML doesn't care about it. Okay. So there are two types of lists in HTML that we should be concerned about. There is the ordered list and and then a numbered list. And the first tag is a UL. And the other one's going to be the ordered list. All right. Now, for each item here, there's a list item. I'm going to go in and I'm just basically going to grab. So in the unordered list, basically, you can see that in here, it's just a bullet point. And in this one, I'm actually going to give this a BR before it. Give it a BR as well. And I'm literally, again, I'm going to grab these items. I'm going to paste them on here. You'll see that now you've got a numbered order. And that's basically the big difference between the two. You'll see these lists come up. You'll see items added into so elements as you go on. You'll get to the point where you can actually. One of the things about JavaScript is that you can add items, you can remove items, you can. So this is where your more dynamic web pages come into play. Items get hidden and shown. Let's jump in and then let's talk about the image tag. Jump right in here. I'm going to take this out so you can get rid of the error for right now. Grab the paragraph tag and I'll put it in here. Okay. So basically, what we're looking at is the image tag, and the first thing is, and I do. So SRC is basically what is the asset that we're talking about. Now I've got images in images, so I can go equal, go images, and then I will bring in we'll do students JPEG. And here we go. It's now dropped this in this student image, which I have no clue what's going on there in terms of the image. But one of the first things that you will want to do is the alt tag. And basically this is basically a text. This is a instructor looking over students. Let's show this in action. If I put my cursor over it, back. Here we go. Why is it not saving? That's weird. I'm not sure what's going on, but, and I'm not sure why this page. Let's open up and there we go. Should just show up. But one of the things is that there is the alt text, and the idea behind the alt text is basically this is for accessibility purposes. The alt tag is here so that people who and I actually have a family member who is visually impaired, and he needs these alt tags in order to use websites appropriately. But this is basically you'll see this alt tag set up on these images to help describe what the image is. And this is actually for a website to be compliant, accessibly compliant. And there's actually a federal law, I think it's 501 is the section. To be compliant, basically, you need to have all these alt tags set on your images. Otherwise, it's just an image and there's nothing, no one knows what's going on. I know you can set these in social media like Facebook, and I think Twitter might still, I don't know about Twitter anymore, I don't use it anymore. Excuse me.
It's an especially common thing on Blue Sky.
I was about to bring up Blue Sky, I was sneezing. Yeah, so particularly Blue Sky supports the alt tag very well. Who knows if Twitter still does after the takeover, or X as it's now called. But that's the big thing. So let's go back to the code. Let's go to the. You see, this is a huge friggin' image. One of the things that you can then do, let me go turn off live. You can go in and we can basically do a height, and we can say that it has a height of we'll say 256. Let me go back. You can see that now I've actually adjusted that because now they've adjusted the value. Let's give me more room on this side. I'm going to put these on multiple lines because I've got, normally you wouldn't put these on multiple lines, but I'm going to do so here because I've got a small window at the moment. So if I wanted 512, that's pretty big. But if I wanted 150. So you can take an image and you can give it a different size. So this is by setting the height, it's going to constrain it to its proportions. So this looks like it's either 4:3 or 16:9 ratio. There is a width value. I'm going to say 50, and so I can squash it. So you can do bad things to your image if you're not paying attention. Here it's squash in this case. So if I go to now, if I take away the height tag, again it's going to give it a width of 150, and then whatever the height is going to be proportional to the original image. So if it's we're looking at 4:3, let's do a width of, we'll do the math easier. If I say my width is 120, the height being, let's say we're 4:3. That means we'll divide that by 30. That's going to be by 3. That'll give us a 30. Multiplied by 4. So my width is. So basically, I'm getting an image 120 by 90 is what's going on here, displayed on the screen. Now that is relative to my scaling of my web page. If I zoom, if I change my percentage, that's not, so we're not talking about exact pixels per se. Again, we're talking, that's going to be at 100, but not everyone's going to be at 100. Like here's 150, here is 200. So it is a lot of relative shenanigans going on. looking for different tags. You will see later on there is a navigation tag. So this will be NAV. Delete that, drop that there. Again, when you're starting using these navigation and division, you will eventually get class names. Say class equal to when we get down to like these items, we can actually give these again. The other side, yeah, is you can give classes, but there's also IDs. So ID equal to item 1. I'm going to go in and I'm basically going to give these all, and it's going to yell about these because they're duplicate ideas. Hold on a sec. There we go. There we go. So now each of these, again, IDs are unique elements within your page. So here I'm going in, basically giving each of these elements pieces. Do I have an CSS? I do. Let's just jump into. Jump in here, and they've got things here already. Setting what is an ordered list, an item here, margin. Let me jump in and let's do hashtag item 1. And then I'll do text. So basically common text, basically it's yelling, but don't, yeah, thanks, I'm not done yet. The big one I'm going to put in here, blanking on the correct. Actually, what we can do is we'll make we'll do color, and then there are lots of colors that you can by default you can assign this by hex code, but you can also go in and say all of these. There's like it would be black, blue. We'll just set this to brown. Here we go. So I needed to refresh it. So here is that text. It's now brown. Let's go back to the CSS one more time. Let's go and say color. Let's go for the bottom. So blue, violet, brown, burly wood. Let's go with chocolate for right now. It stands out. But here we go. So you can go again. classes have a dot in front of it, and hashtag basically is, in this case, the item basically is, hashtags are individual IDs. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to do color. I'll just do aqua. That not showing well on the screen. Just use dark green for right now. So you can see that now that I've added item 1, I've specifically for that item have set some stuff in here. One of the things that they will show you, and this is something we'll go back to the HTML for one moment. One of the things you will see happen over multiple times is a style tag. Sorry, style property, I should say. Color. There you go, crimson. So you can go in, you can add CSS inline. So you can, there again, last week we saw the style tag. Here we're doing the style inline on the spot for this particular element. And the issue with is that now you've got your CSS code all over the place. Like the whole point of having a CSS file is so that all your styling is in one place. This is why Dreamweaver, there's an older application out there called Dreamweaver. And the point of Dreamweaver is that you got a what you see is what you get type style formatting for that page. So the problem with it is that Dreamweaver was built under a Web 1.0 mentality. And unfortunately with that mentality, Dreamweaver does stuff like this all the time. Like it will go in and be like, oh, you want this strong. Let me grab the other. And strong is basically a shorthand for make it bold. The EM tag, which I thought was an element earlier, is emphasis, which basically makes it italic. So the idea here is basically what I'm showing basically again. What Dreamweaver did is basically you get all these tags, and this is what more in line with what Microsoft Office, particularly Word, Google Documents. This is what they're doing behind the scenes. Is that's the embedding? They're embedding tags into your document, essentially, to say this is bold, this is italics. So that's a very Web 1.0 look. When we talk about Web 2.0, we're talking about end of basically about 2000 is Web 2.0 design, and that evolves eventually. The point where this gets mature and solidified is when we brought in HTML5 comes in as the standard. The idea that your web page is really here's your HTML page, which is your structure. The idea is that your HTML page has the structure of your page, and it has as well the content gets put into the HTML. You have CSS, which then stylizes structures. Basically, it takes the structure of your page and then stylizes how it's supposed to look on the page. So background images, moving forward now, not just background images, but background video. is something that's been now been added. That's something that's been added recently to HTML5. Well, when I mean recently, I mean the past 15 years. But you see websites with background video. So some of the things that you will see with CSS, some common things is that you will see that will be there's what's called the padding. Oh, and I forgot to put semicolons at the end of these lines. There we go. So padding. Basically, this is within the element. This is space around the element in terms of inside of itself. So when we talk about padding, so there's two ways to do this. There is, you can do a padding and be like, and you can see right here, I've got like, and EM is basically the size of your, it basically is a line of text essentially. I'll do 1.5 just to see. So here is 1.5. I'm going to go 1.5 to 2.5 EM. So top, right, bottom, left and bottom is basically what, and I'm assigning the values on the fly here in this case. Let's go in. You'll see that rather than using padding, there is a dash. We'll just do top. So I can padding right. You'll see these again. I'll do 2.5. Do padding bottom. 1.5. Left 2. So you can see right here, I've done left and right 2.5 and 1.5 for the top and bottom. So it's giving padding. So it pads. This is the element start end point, and it's padding the area around it. And this is the actual information inside. So I'm going to go back and go to my, just so that we have more. And again, this is going to scale with the size of my web page. So it's a flowing text box, and that's something to be aware about. Is that text flows, items flow, and that's one of the big things. Is that it's not showing in here, but basically you can as you go on, you'll start anchoring things to places on the web page, as opposed to letting the text flow. One of the things that you will see, let's go back to the main CSS. Font. So for the body, you'll see font family. So what font are we using? And then this is using so it's going to be like, hey, use Arial first, then Helvetica, then the generic sans serif font. So basically, the difference between, let me go in and I'm going to go and just say use a serif font. So right now, if you look right now, like here's header. This is generic Arial. It's pretty plain. It's like there's, and let me jump to a serif font. You see the little, let me try and get, here we go. All right, so a serif font, see how the H comes up and there's a little bits on the end right here? Those are called serifs. Non-serif font doesn't have those decorative element in the glyphs. When I mean by glyph, a single character within a font set is called a glyph. So just make sure. So here is number 1. It's got a little pointy here, pointy bit down here. I go back and I go to sans serif. It's going to, this is again Arial again, but here you can see here is header 1, and you can see those little pointy bits are off the H. We've got again right here, but we don't have the base down here. So just give ideas of So those are your 2 font families. There's do we have pointy things? Do we not have pointy things on it? Fonts you'll see. We can go in and actually will suggest. So Courier New. Do I want to? Yes. Why are you not? We'll just do monospace. Okay. All right. Monospace basically is, think the text you see out of Visual Studio, code blocks, is particularly going to be monospace. It's hey, I'm looking at a monitor. Old school 80s monitor, basically. Font size. Basically, we can control, how big it is. I'm not going to worry about that in a moment. But we can say this is 100. We'll do 200. So this is going to makes the font twice as big. So you can control how big it is by percentage. I'm going to go in and I'm going to say font size, I can do 48. Probably not what I really want. We'll just say, let's keep it as percentage. What's going on? There we go. I can go, say 150. What's the width? So basically, this is how much of the, so with a percentage, how much of the screen am I using? I'm going to go down, I'm going to take out these paddings just so that we have a better idea of how width. So right now I'm using 90% of it. I can jump that down to 70%. So I've got 15% on this side, it's 15%, I've got only using 70% of the screen. I want to use only half. So this is one way websites are going to take how to take this across. What is the max width? So basically, after a certain point, it's going to crush this down. But this is. Let me go to the web page version of set this back to 100. So this is going to assume that this is 800 pixels is the widest of the web page is going to be. Let's actually set this down to 400. Save this page. Just close all my browsers. There we go. So here is the text. If I make this bigger, you can see that text is leading off. The big thing is that there are so many tags like values that you can assign CSS. I'm just going to do W3 schools just to give you an idea of. So if you're looking for, there's basic HTML, there's CSS stuff, and there's JavaScript. They've got more in here now, but again, just like literally just here is a CSS, should be, here we go. So, interaction, syntax, selectors, how-to, comments, colors. So they have color names. You could do hex value, RGB8 with an alpha value, or just an RGB. Again, here they're going in, they're stylizing it. So background for a tag, background color is basically the tag is going to basically stylize. Like this element has this fill. So think like in Microsoft Office, you select some text, you can affect the text color. That's just color, and then there is the background behind it. So that's what background dash color is going to be. You can see here is color text, which I've been using. There are borders. So here is a border to. So the idea here is that you can have a border to pick how big it is, how big the border is, and then what is. I'm actually going to grab this right here. Let's go back to. Let's go to tag item 4. So I can set a border. So I'll have a border here of 2 pixels. I'm going to do 4 pixels. Is it what type of border? It's going to be solid, and then we're using the color tomato in this case. It could be red. So we go back to our student page. You can look right here. Now I have a border of basically 4 pixels. It's red and it's solid. Let me see. Let's jump into borders. So basically, so values. So solid border, dash, dotted. So let's actually let me go through each of these. So it can be dotted. Dashes. Double border. Something called groove. So if we go in, you can barely see it. Let me see if. Here you go. So here is a 3D effect of basically grooved, like it's like chiseled in. Let's go back. There's a few others. There's bridge, inset, offset. You can say that, hey, none, that finds no border. So if we go back to live view, so you can see that basically there is no, in this case, so I don't have a border in this case. So I can specifically say there is no border, and that's something you'll do on a regular basis. It's like, hey, I will set this to be none. Let me see. Let's continue on. And then there's a hidden style. So again, the thing that I'm trying to get across with you is like, hey, go look up what you want. Like, again, a lot of what you'll want to do is you're going to go like, hey, what do I want to do? Look up like, hey, I want to have a border. I want to have this for this element. I'm actually go back and I'll make this back solid. All right. I'm going to grab the border element, and this is going to be what's in. So I'm going to go up here. I'm going to basically say for all my elements, it's going to be green, and I'll make this one done dashed. Okay. So one of the primary properties of CSS is that elements that come later on. So basically, this is defined by the body. So all of these properties come into play. The next piece that we are going, again, my font family, I can go and say, let's go grab the font family. Or that would be the other one. Here you go. No, not font. There we go. So you can see that I've gone in and I've changed the font. It's basically in that tag. All right. So as you change things basically there's a hierarchy of things. So basically the body starts with one property, and then embedded elements can then override that property. So for my case, basically let's grab color. Use yellow. All right, this is hideous, but that's okay. So my body says my font color is yellow, and you can barely see my headers now, and these elements can barely be seen now. This header 2 defines a color of whatever this color is. It's this blue. So my header 2 overrides that property. I have a ordered list. Let's do black. And I'll go in here and I'll just color. Purple. That's not going to do anything because here we go. So my list item right here, I've said that basically the text in my my lists are going to be black. Now, item 1, where is the green? Border green. So I've overridden that color again by item 1. So there's a higher, so as you embed things, the newest thing that gets added to, so this is again, we're using the same value in different places. How they're embedded, where they're embedded, basically is going to make a difference. So again, the body is the first thing. My paragraph is the next element. I can go and change it there. I mean, here's my list item. And then the ID itself is going to be, and it's going to be selection item. So like these tags are going to be is the first that come first. Next come, I believe, classes, and then finally the last piece, in terms of order of how they apply things. The last one that gets applied is going to be your class, is your ID. And that's important because that's ultimately, I can have, basically a class for all these list items, to separate it from other list items. But then I have individual IDs. I think I'm explaining this well. There is, I want to just jump in. So there is what's called the box model. I'm going to just bring up the CSS Schools website because they have a great. So margin. So here is your page. Margin is basically what basically is define this area for the whole content. So this is from here to here is the body. Within an element, they will have a border. Padding is what's from between the border and the content. And the content is what's actually basically we look at this text. It basically is applied, has a margin, doesn't have a border, has no padding. And so this is my text. This is my content. Did I explain this well? This image right here really explains that box model in a very defined. What is which.
So basically, margin is your gift wrap, border is your box, padding is your packing peanuts, and content is your gift.
Yeah. So I actually have a class. Let's actually go in and let's play with that. So this is all common text. Let's start with a border. So if I go in and I give it a border, you can make it solid. So margins you're only going to put in up here. These are I'm going to leave that by itself. But here's the box, and here is that text, and there's no padding. I can go in basically. Let's go in and give it padding. We'll do 0.5, we'll do EM. And you can see that, and so if I only give it one value, it's going to give it a padding on all sides. So if I only give it one value, you can give it multiple values, don't. I advise against that. Like if you want to do just this like left and right, or, again, we went through and did padding left, padding right. Here's a padding left in this case. So they're adding a little bit of space here. So let's just go grab the padding. So if I right, padding top, 0.5 EM, padding bottom, 0.5 EM. So if you really want to adjust, like here, adjust the box individually, Go and set the values themselves. All right. Why this particular way? And the reason to think about in this particular way is you're setting. Think of this element has a particular state. And we talked about states in other, like in another class where we talked about building a traffic light, there is the red state, traffic light has a red light, green light, yellow light. And we simplified that to, well, traffic light has 3 primary states, besides its startup sequence, it has a red state, a green state, a yellow state. And even though as you go from red to green to yellow, you are specifically saying in the red state, the red light is on, yellow and green are off. And even though, like, when we go from green, let's say, again, we start with our green state, green light is on, yellow and red are off. Even though the yellow light doesn't change from green to red, or red to green in this case, that color, that light doesn't change. When we go between those 2 states, we want to assume that there's no funny business going on. So for secure, this is for code security. The idea here is that if you're going in from one state to another, make sure all of the values of that state are assigned. So if I want to basically be specific about, I can say, if I just want to, even around the box, padding's fine. But if I want to start adjusting the sides individually, then assign each side individually, and don't use the padding with 4 values like I used. I've tried that a little bit earlier, and I don't know the order it assigned them, to be quite honest. And most people don't. That's the thing I want to be clear. Most people don't know the order, like when you can take 4 values, because that's a legacy feature. All right. This is here for backwards compatibility for old websites, that were, when once upon a time, that's how you did it. Basically as we move, as CSS evolved, they went from just having a padding with those 4 values to padding with these other padding values. And that's basically use these other values. Don't use that one value. Because people are like, well, what they off the top of the head, without only the real hardcore gurus will know what you're doing. And I mean by the hardcore of hardcores. So if you're going to go in and you're going to, have each side of the box slightly different, go in and set those values. So that's a best practice type scenario. So there are a couple of other ways we can do colors. I'm just going to point out right now. I'm going to go in and you can literally do RGB. We'll do 0, 0, 255. So here is I've made that blue. There is also RGBA, so there's an alpha color. So there is, again, a 4th value, which is the transparency. This is going to be 0.5. 0.2. You can see that it's now starting to fade out. Do 1. So it's even more faded text. Again, I can highlight and bring that up. But again, you can see that here's my text. Do 0.5. So basically, this is text that has. Again, I'm on white, so it's not as evident. So if I was on like a cloudy background that has a lot of blues, this would blend in a lot more. Again, think about Photoshop where you've got an opacity level. that's, you set opacity. I basically did a opacity of 50%. There's the HSL and HSLA, which is in alpha as well. I've never used those, but just know that those are other ways to select colors. If you want to go, and I'm not going to go over that specifically because most people are going to use RGB unless they're using something like they're doing something print related things. So. Excuse me. Yeah, HSL is hue, saturation, lightness. Yeah, you can, if most people are not playing with hue, saturation, lightness. They're going with the RGB. Here we go. So font style. So I'll start with style. So you can set italic. You can set normal. So normal is doesn't have anything. Where is so the way there is a straight up font. The basically was like, what is the styled? So we'll just say this is italic. The weight, which will be, we'll say bold, and then size by line height, and then ultimately there is, so we can say. Again, this is one of those, hooray, this is the font. What we really want is the font, font family. We'll do Arial. You can see we can. So there are, let's bring up the web fonts. It should be under text. No, here's a section for fonts. Okay, generic font family: serif, sans serif, monospace, same fixed width. They create a mechanical look. Cursive, human handwriting. Fantasy, playful fonts. That's interesting. These two are new. Serif, Times New Roman, Georgia Garment. Sans serif, Arial, Verdena, Helvetica. Monospace, Courier New. Yay, Cotex, Lucia Console, Monaco. Cursive. These are not as cursive as I thought it would be. Brush, Script, MT, and Lucia handwriting. Fantasy, Copperplate, Papyrus. Don't use Papyrus. So these are the font family. Font web safe. Again, there are three types. Here is font family: Tona, Verena, sans serif. So if the first one's not available, it tries to use the second one. If that's not available, it defaults to a generic sans serif font. So that's backup fonts. Best fonts for HTML and CSS. Arial, Vanilla, you're guaranteed to have all of these in play. Before you publish, check how your fonts appear in different browsers and devices, and always use fallbacks. So here's the thing about the web. Each browser is going to do something slightly different. Chrome is going to do something different from Edge/IE. Different from Opera, different from Firefox. Each system is going to handle it differently. Difference between Android versus iOS, versus Windows, how it's going to display things. Apple OS versus your whatever flavor of Linux you're using. So this is a case where you're now getting into build once, test everywhere. And that's supposed to be a pejorative, by the way. So Java was like build once, run everywhere. Was Java's catch line, particularly in the 90s and early 2000s. The joke became is you build once and test everywhere, because it handled how Java was handled on each particular system was different. And this is the same thing with the web. How the web page, we've gotten a lot better. It's become more standardized, a lot better. But there's always, you never know, particularly if you're using something a newer tag, a newer element, to HTML5 or CSS or JavaScript. You never know how the browser is going to handle it, per se. It could be very different. So just be mindful that you should be testing, particularly for web development, you need to be testing on multiple different browsers. I think some people still test on IE if they have that installed, but they're testing on Edge. They're testing, Opera. The big ones are Opera, Chrome, Edge, and Firefox are the big ones. Brave is another one that's out there. Brave is a Chrome variant. But those are the big four that you're going to be testing on. I believe iOS defaults to Opera as their browser. So, is there anything particular that I haven't shown? Be like, hey, how would I do X, Professor Wallach? I know I'm throwing a lot at you, and like it's literally throwing spaghetti at the wall type scenario.
For the font families, is it just it has it as the font families as a default thing that happens, or are you able to make it?
You can set that by element.
Okay.
By each element, by element, by class, and by ID. So again, example here, I went in, said item 4 use just generic serifs. Here is, I've set my common text, this box. It's going to try and use Arial. In fact, I'm going to take away Arial, and I'm going to put it back. So it's going to try and use Helvetica first, then Arial, then a sans serif font. Yeah, the goal here right now is trying to give you an idea like, hey, here's what you can do with some CSS. Here's what, I'm just trying to like give you ideas, common stuff that you can do. Again, go jump in. There's so much more if you want to go in. We talked about margins, padding, height, width. Like there's inline block. We can say something that's an inline block. This is now getting into display. So display inline is a major difference. Inline block allows to set width to element. So here is a navigation piece. Background color is yellow, and here is display block. So there's again so much in here that you can do. Navigation bar drop down. Advanced stuff. So here is, you can do some gradients. You can do web. Here's web fonts. Do transformations. So you can do CSS animation. Text effects, gradients. We will come back later when we look at like buttons. That's one of the things we'll do. Just trying to think. Yeah. Any other questions for me? Anything you want me to go over? No. Okay. We're gonna stop the recording here.